I'm in the middle of having my hair dyed.
You're a blonde these days.
I know. Well, I'm actually gray.
No, you're not.
Yeah, that was my one of my COVID pivots. I finally just embraced the gray and I love it. And I like being the age I am and kind of being a great role model for
Yeah.
going not dyeing your hair anymore.
How old are you now?
I
Am I-
am 47.
So,
47's, I have to say, 47's a bit of a weird one. I'm like, holy shit, I'm nearly 50.
yeah, I get that. So where do we find you? You're in LA. You live
I'm
in
in
LA these
LA.
days?
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I moved up here. I was in Venice Beach. I basically had a breakdown in 2012 when my dad died, which was all good. Like we were in a great place and he was old and his body was knackered. And so it was the best way that I could imagine, the most healthy way of losing a parent. But it made me realize I totally married the wrong person and end up made just having made the wrong decisions for my own future. And I kind of woke up over the course of a few days even, and I left my marriage, sold everything I owned, and moved to America. And I'm so glad I did that.
KT Tunstall, you're certainly on fire these days. You've been super busy, and as a result, you've got new music out now, and you seem to be in hot demand to collab with everybody, some huge names. So I want to talk about all of that.
Of course, I'd love to. It was a very interesting time. The most surprising thing for me during lockdown was that I love my fans. I'm so grateful. So it's certainly not coming from a place of a lack of gratitude for that, but I didn't miss playing at all. And that was really surprising to me. I thought I would. And actually, I just absolutely loved the solitude and the quiet and the home life and my laundry situation of being able to wash my clothes. And again, I got a dog and I fell in love with the new person, and it was a really really transformative time. I'd actually been really neglecting a lot of things in my life. Music always came first and it was getting in the way of having a great personal life. The thing is, if you take time off as a musician, you're still going, oh my God, everybody else is still touring. But because everybody had to stop, one of the really lovely things that I'd not had time to do in my mad touring life was collaborate with people. And that was really all you could do. So I suddenly was doing tons of collaboration where I didn't really do any before that.
Have you managed to maintain that balance still, or is music starting to overtake again?
Well, the thing was that I think I had about 200 shows in 2020. It was going to be one of the busiest touring years of my life. And some of it went away, but some of it was postponements and reschedules. And I've been really enjoying fulfilling those gigs. So there was a lot of joy in going back out, but it really has allowed me to sort of come in with a fresh slate and really decide, do I really want to do this, or am I saying yes because it's what I do? And so I have found, funnily enough, in a kind of fortune telling scenario with Black Horse and the Cherry Tree with a chorus that just says no, 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 no. I learned how to say no for maybe the first time.
If I can take you back to Black Horse and the Cherry Tree, because that's really where you came to the world's attention. You were 27 years old at the time, and we saw you in 2004 appear on Jules Holland. Can you tell us a little bit about how that song came along and the performance?
Well, the song was really funny because I'd finished the record and then I wrote that song after the album was finished because I'd made this album that sounded like a band, but I didn't have a band. And so my friend had this loop pedal in his backpack. He was the sound engineer and he said, oh, well, listen, why don't you try this pedal? Maybe you can get some backing sounds. I'd seen people do it with their voice and I'd seen people do it with a guitar, but I'd never seen someone do both in one pedal. And I'd never seen anyone bash the hell out of their guitar to get a drum beat. So that was mine. And subsequently, it's been so amazing to pioneer something. I never set out to kind of pioneer a way of playing. So I came up with the song and the lyrics were real automatic writing. Whatever was coming up first, I went with. And I guess the basis of that song was coming from a place where I just signed my record deal. I spent 10 years not signing a record deal because I didn't want to be beholden to the man. I wanted to stay independent, but in the end, I couldn't make it work. So there was a sort of feeling in me of signing your soul to the devil. They managed to get me a spot on Later with Jules Holland, this amazing TV show in the UK. And Nas the Rapper had pulled out at the last minute. So I got Nas the Rapper's spot. My label boss said, play that Woohoo Horse song. And I said, it's not even on the record. He said, don't worry about it. We're going to put it on the record. Thank goodness he gave me that bit of advice, and it changed everything.
It did. It soared up the charts everywhere, didn't it?
Yeah.
And made you a bit of a household name.
Yeah.
How did that feel for you?
It was weird and wonderful. The wonderful, obvious, because every musician's dream, whether they admit to it or not, is to walk into a club anywhere in the world and the audience sings the words with you. That's just like the holy grail. But weird because I never really set out to get famous or anything. I just wanted to be a musician as a job. So I definitely kind of wished I could be on a tour bus and tour the world, but I never really thought much about the fame and people knowing who you are side of it. And don't get me wrong, it's great. You can like get a table res much easier at a busy restaurant. But it's definitely odd because, especially because it was at the same time as the birth of the wider internet. So there was this sort of judge and jury of everything that you were doing in a completely new way, which was a bit overwhelming. Also being one of the first wave of artists that happened to at all.
So I guess the whole internet thing put you on even a bigger stage than you thought you were going to play on.
Yeah, I mean, I think my career really is due to that. Something I See was already on the record. My label would like to tell you that they knew it was a huge hit, but I don't think anybody did. And yeah, I got the call about it being used at the beginning of Devil Wears Prada. And I remember my manager at the time said, enjoy this moment because it's the opening 3.5 minutes of this movie. The song is completely unedited and there's no dialogue over your music. It's just your music with Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep. I think it ended up in Ugly Betty, then Other Side of the World ended up on Grey's Anatomy. And I have to tip my hat to the music supervisors of the world because they really do help make it happen for many musicians when they put their music in TV shows and films.
2007 saw a whole lot of different collaborations for you, KT Tunstall. The first one you sang with one of my favourites, the Scottish band Travis.
Yes, beautiful song. And I opened for Travis at the Cavern, actually, in Liverpool, the really famous
Beatles Cavern, yeah.
Someone had just told me that bromine, which is in pineapples, is really good for your throat. And I think Fran had a bad husky voice or something. And I said, but you've got to eat the pineapple within 30 seconds of cutting, otherwise this magic ingredient evaporates. So we were literally all on the floor chopping up a pineapple and just devouring it before all the magic properties disappeared. It was pretty fun.
Have you since proved that theory true or false?
I have no idea. We had a laugh. And we all had some pineapple, so it was great.
Well, it could be worse. You could have shared something much more distasteful. The next year, 2008, you worked with our very own, well, we like to claim him, Tim Finn. Well, he's not really Australian, he's New Zealand. Certainly a big friend of Australia's.
Yeah, so Neil runs that wonderful yearly musical magical convention called Seven Worlds Collide, and it makes an album for Oxfam. So I just found myself in Auckland with the Finns. It was amazing. It was like heaven summer camp for musicians.
Not so long ago you had hearing problems, KT.
I still do. So it was halfway through tour in 2018 and I lost my hearing in my left ear, and I'd had tinnitus and a little high-end damage for about 10 years, and I kind of thought that was it. But I think that was kind of just the beginning of something that was probably going to happen anyway. It was very shocking, kind of discombobulating, but I managed to get past it, and I still can't. I'm still deaf on one side.
And did they tell you that was as a result of too much loud music played?
They didn't actually think it was from an event. They think it was more from some sort of kind of nervous system inflammation. So I was probably just living a bit too hard. I was traveling all the time. I was pushing myself a lot.
I'm glad to hear that you're more in balance now and you've learned to say no.
It's actually a great excuse now. If I don't want to do something, I'll be like, I'm so sorry. It's just really hard.
You don't need the excuse, just a simple no. Will do. Which brings us pretty much up to your latest album. It's your 7th studio album. It's the last in a trilogy of albums that you started recording and releasing in 2016. It's called Nut. It's a very strange title.
I know. Well, it's Scottish for head. Uh, it
Ah,
definitely has different meaning in America. Like growing up, everyone would say, didn't you lose your nut? What's wrong with your nut? And people call you a nut if you're behaving weirdly. But I just also love that if you open a walnut or a pecan, it just looks
like a
exactly like
brain.
a brain.
Yeah.
And so it was soul, body, and mind, the three records, and this one is the mind record.
The other thing that I've really loved you on and have heard recently is the collaboration you've done with Gilbert O'Sullivan
Oh, I
and Mick
know. And it was
Hucknall.
just such a joy working with them. It was just a very, very joyful track.